And welcome in as we start to look at Week 8 and Friday Night Drive. And we're glad you're with us here on this Friday night as we get towards the end of the regular season. I'm Matt Rodewald. Thank you for joining us. The scores are scrolling on the bottom of the screen. We'll have updates as we go. We have games going down to the wire right now and some big breaking news developing as well. As best as we can, we'll try to explain it to you. And we'll go through it first. Steve Soucie's with us. He's been watching games in his bunker tonight. What have you been watching? And obviously the biggest story tonight starts with Lincoln Way East and who did not play.
Yeah, I was watching that game early. I wasn't watching it early on, and I saw a notice that Lincoln Way East was trailing 14-0 at halftime to Naperville North. And my immediate reaction was, whoa, what's going on there? So I found a feed, clicked on it, looked at it, immediately recognized what the situation was. Jonas Williams was not under center for Lincoln Way East tonight. I have not been able to find out why that was the case. I did find out he was in uniform but did not play in the game, which resulted in just a few minutes ago, Naperville North pulling off a 14-6 victory over Lincoln Way East.
So Lincoln Way East loses, they score 6 points, and Naperville North gets the win out of it, a gift win. Obviously, to recap, Jonas Williams dressed but did not play, and so that's going to be something that's going to upset the apple cart that is the 8A bracket. Seuss, what do you understand as best you can what that does as before we really dive into it after all the finals come in?
Kind of shockingly, it's not going to do a lot to Lincoln Way East. And the reason for that is what we talked about before is there aren't going to be a lot of undefeated teams in 8A. The only one that is potentially left now is Mount Carmel. That's it. There's nobody else because Friend lost last week. Glenbard West is trending towards 7A. All we're going to have left now is Mount Carmel as long as they can win next week in Week 9. So that basically moves Lincoln Way East, if they are able to beat Sandburg next week, into that 8-1 group. They've got pretty decent points. You go back and you look at their non-conference schedule, Maine South, Kankakee. That's two pretty solid programs piling up points for you. So they're going to be pretty high in the 8-win group, provided they can beat Sandburg next week. So while they were probably going to be seated behind Mount Carmel before, it's entirely possible. I haven't looked at it in great shakes. They might still be in the same spot despite the loss. It seems a little crazy, but that's kind of the breakdown. I think I have to look at it a little bit more carefully. I think Maine South might leapfrog them, which is kind of comical, but considering Lincoln Way East beat Maine South convincingly earlier in the season. Yep. But I think it's probably the only one that I can think of off the top of my head out of that 8-win group that could potentially have more playoff points than Lincoln Way East. So it's actually entirely possible that this loss could not affect their seed.
Maine South, by the way, 17-0 on Glenbrook South. They're midway through the third quarter. We'll get you the update on that one. Oswego about to put Oswego East away. This was a weird one for a while with a very odd sequence right before halftime. It's now 33-21. Oswego just with a pick. They flipped the field, about 1:41 to go, so that's academic. Oswego East needed a lot to happen. The weird sequence was in the final 20 seconds of the first half. I was listening on the radio to hear this, and I don't know if I've ever seen this before. Oswego going in for a field goal, or I should say, it was Oswego East with a 14-7 lead. Oswego going in for a score at the end of the half. They settle for a field goal. The ensuing kickoff is a fumble, and with 3 seconds left, they just kicked another field goal. So it's like back-to-back field goals. It was 14-13 because Oswego East gifted them points. I'm not sure I've seen 2 straight offensive snaps turn into field goals before. Successfully. I don't care what level it is. I've just never seen that. Fun is the game of football. So we're watching that. St. Charles North struggled tonight with Glenbard North. Glenbard North and the Panthers got a safety, and that's now gone final as the St. Charles North was trying to run out the clock, essentially, the backdoor cover play, so to speak. 31-20, the final, St. Charles North. You were watching that, and after last week getting thumped by Wheaton South, I was curious to see how they reacted. For a while, they did not react very well to that, but they shook them off, got a win.
Yeah, it would look like they were scuffling for quite a bit in that one, just kind of maybe not getting their footing, or I'm not exactly sure what it was. Didn't watch it in great detail because, once again, I had 8 games going on at the same time. But it seemed like every time I looked up, they were having trouble moving the football. kind of struggling to break free and get away from them. So, I'm not really sure what's been happening over the last couple of weeks, in terms of their inability to show kind of the muscle that they did early in the first half of the season. But, that's, hopefully, they got one more week here to try to eke out whatever's easing them there. So that, basically when you're looking at their situation now, it does look like they could potentially finish 8-1. But overall, it was another situation in the Duquesne where I felt like all of those games were kind of worth keeping an eye on. And another one that, I'm sure we'll touch on it at some point in time, Geneva picking up that 5th loss tonight.
Yep.
That I honestly did not expect to see happening tonight. They lost to Wheaton North. And that, they're in bad shape. Because even if they get to 4 and 5, the non-conference schedule isn't strong enough to make them a legitimate contender for a 4-win playoff spot.
The Larkin Royals did them no favors with that non-conference schedule for sure. And so we're looking downstate. One game that's intriguing. They're under 3 minutes to go. Highland has been leading most of the way on Mascoutah, but Mascoutah has the ball down 3. It's 13-10. They have the ball now inside the 30-yard line at home. So they're trying to rally for either a game-tying or go-ahead score as they're now down to the 2:45 mark. Meanwhile, Mount Carmel and Fenwick has been interesting. It's tight. They're in the second half. In the final minute of the third quarter, Mount Carmel has a 1-score lead, 21-14, trying to go in again, but Fenwick has tried to stay with them pretty well. It's not been a great football game for either team, really. Not a lot of breakout plays in this one. What do you make of Mount Carmel's efforts so far? And are you impressed with Fenwick, what they did tonight, what they've been doing tonight so far?
The one thing that I've noticed, I've watched a good chunk of this game tonight. I have been really impressed with Fenwick's open field tackling.
Yes.
Because there have been some plays that it looked like, oh boy, that's going to be a problem. And Fenwick has been stepping up and making most of those plays, reining them in and limiting plays that look like they could be big game breakers to, 5-yard gains. So to their credit, they have really stepped up on that front. Mount Carmel currently has the ball. It looked like 4th and 7. So
and they scored.
Set up for a field goal here, but it doesn't look like it.
I got a 4th and 7 touchdown on that play. So so they did back of the end zone. So we also want to
you're a little ahead of me. Yep.
Okay, we want to give an update, and Brian mentions tough loss for Geneva. They're 3-5. They've got St. Charles East next week. Aurora Christian did hold on to beat Wheaton Academy tonight. We're going to talk about the impact of that one here in just a couple of minutes. 28-27, Aurora Christian gets the home win. About Mount Carmel going for the extra point right now as we're watching this. Again, this is 4 seconds left with in the end of the third quarter. So we nearly had a loser walk end of quarter kickoff. I love those sequences. You have them every now and then, but it's 27-14. I don't think the extra point was good. So unless the score did not update for me. I want to read an update about what we're dealing with up at Dundee Crown tonight. The Prairie Ridge and Dundee Crown were playing. I want to say it was 27-7 Prairie Ridge at the half. And at the half, and we're just learning a situation that happened up there. The game was postponed because what we understand is Carpentersville Police is saying that shots were fired nearby. So it wasn't on the grounds for our understanding. It was nearby. The Dundee Crown's athletic department tweeted that there was a situation is why the game was being suspended at the time. They have now postponed it to Saturday out of abundance of caution is what they're saying. So we're going to have a news story on that on Shaw Local as the evening wears on. But we've seen these situations, Souce, around the country where these happen, not just in the stadium, but around the stadium. And when you're around it, you just never know, and you've got to be very, very careful. And they were at a sequence of the game, thankfully, and just from a football perspective, right at halftime, where you can just kind of pick up where you leave off the next day. So I imagine they'll play that probably around 1 o'clock. I don't have that time in front of me. We'll see if we can get that. And if you know, as maybe a fan that was at the game and you heard the announcement, please let us know. So we understand.
It's 11 a.m., Matt.
It is 11 a.m. So they're gonna play at 11 a.m. and finish the second half there. So scary sequence tonight. They do happen, but we appreciate the administration, I will say, of Dundee Crown and the folks with Prairie Ridge probably with their cooperation, because it's not easy to coordinate all that stuff the next day. And as someone who works in school administration, I can tell you how difficult that is. So everyone got out safely. Everyone's safe. So that's the most important thing. We want to show you the highlights from week number 8 as we whip around the state of Illinois to show you all the fun stuff that's happening on another warm night of high school football.
From 15 yards. Watson, the ball came.
Antino, Herod with it, tucks it, goes toward an opening, and fights his way into the end zone for a touchdown. Under 6 minutes to go, third quarter. Here is again. Chetwood breaks outside.
Touchdown, Blue Devils!
And so the highlights of week number 8 all across the state of Illinois. I saw a Trey Taylor highlight in there at Soucie. We saw a lot of Trey Taylor highlights tonight. Carmel just absolutely unloading on Loyola. The final now won 42-14. What did you make of that result, and what is that going to do to Loyola?
You know, we talked about this before. This is the situation that I'm sure that Loyola did not want to materialize, because now they're sitting there unorthodox, because we are in week 8. They have that 4-3 record now, but for all intents and purposes, they're considered a 4-win team. They don't get any extra dispensation in terms of getting into the playoffs because they have one less loss. The losses don't matter, only the wins. And they go into that week 9 game next week with Mount Carmel, obviously as a substantial underdog. If they don't get a win in that game, they will finish the season with 4 regular season wins, and then we'll have to hope for some help. It's not out of the realm of possibility. But little things like, you know, that you have to consider when you're talking about Loyola and their playoff points. For example, tonight, Montini beat St. Ignatius. So, even in their own division, they're not getting the number of playoff points that they're used to getting. The Blue doesn't usually lose crossover games. So tonight, the best the Blue is going to do, I haven't seen a score on one of the games, and the Mount Carmel game is still going on. The best the Blue is going to do is 2-2 collectively, because Loyola lost, St. Ignatius lost. So, I mean, you're just looking at that situation. Brother Rice did win, so probably going to go 2-2, but usually Loyola is counting on getting 3 wins a week from their divisional teams. They're not getting that tonight, and they haven't. And there's been a couple of times where they haven't gotten that. So, that's a problem if they're not getting those wins from those teams in their division. They're going to be in the conversation on points if they end up being a 4-win team, but it's all going to come down to how much craziness happens in Week 9 for them.
Right.
My gut tells me now, based on where they're at on that list, I don't think they're going to make it.
And that's shocking to just hear that. Just hear the idea that Loyola not making the playoffs after what they've been through, and just unfortunate with that no game situation that really, really hurt. And and not to make light too much of it, but hey, I tell you what, when we have our open house in the spring, these are some of the issues we can solve. We can maybe find out what exactly happened to Loyola, how their process was to try and get that game, because it really matters right now for them, and it's shaking up the playoff brackets as a result of what they've had to deal with. By the way, Fenwick just picked up a 3rd and 3 first down now, under 10 minutes. It's Mount Carmel 28-14. They're in the fourth quarter down on the south side. Maine South with a 17-0 lead on Glenbrook South. They're under 5 minutes in the third quarter, and a big run for Maine South, who's going to walk into the end zone without he just had his hands out wide with about 15 yards to go getting into the end zone. So that's going to be 24-0 at this point. Look at the score here that just came across with Wakanda and Antioch, and Antioch had the ball 4th and goal at the 10-yard line, and how about that? Not quite get there. And so Wakanda continues to keep winning. It's that conference, it's hard to read, the Northern Lake County Conference, in terms of the quality of football up there, but Wakanda scores points each and every week. This was their toughest matchup. They passed the test. They're going to be interesting when they get in the postseason.
Yeah, they are. And, it was just kind of looking at this game, kind of on paper, I was kind of leaning towards Antioch in this one. But that's one of those games that, I can't do coin flips in this game. I got to pick potentially a winner here. I can't hedge on it. So I went with Antioch in this game. But I'm not at all surprised that Wakanda won this game. On paper, it looked very, very close, and it turned out to be very, very close on the field as well.
Highland did hold on to beat Mascoutah, so that drive failed, essentially. They got all the way down to the 30-yard line. I flipped it off as I was flying around. Didn't see how they ended up stopping it, but they're shaking hands right now. So Highland, a big win on the road down there at Mascoutah and down in the southern part of the state. Seneca had a wild ride tonight. We were talking about how that one would be interesting with St. Joe Ogden. J.D. Penalty was there. We got our first recap of the night. Let's listen in.
J.T. Penalty here in Seneca, where the Fighting Irish moved to 8-0. With a 39-36 victory over St. Joe Ogden. Great football game back and forth. SJO quarterback Cody McKinney has a rocket for an arm, but he ran in 3 touchdowns today. Cam Shree, Seneca running back, had 3 touchdowns of his own, including an 80-yarder on the very first snap from scrimmage today. He added a 65 and a 3-yard touchdown. Seneca 8-0, look well on their way to an undefeated regular season.
All right, so with Seneca being 8-0, I'm going to ask this question I've been thinking about for weeks. Are they good? Because I haven't been able to figure that out. Does this give you an indication of they're a team that actually can do some damage in the postseason?
I'm still a little bit confused. I don't know if I got clarity on that tonight. I felt like that this was a game that if Seneca was a team that could make a really deep run, they had an opportunity to make a statement here and kind of handle St. Joe better than they did, because this isn't as strong a St. Joe team as maybe I thought at the beginning of the season. They've had a few losses in the Illini Prairie Conference that maybe I didn't expect them to have. So yeah, that was definitely one of those situations where I was like, to be honest with you, I thought Seneca would win the game. I thought they would win it a little bit more convincingly than they did.
Pretty impressive score that just came across. We saw that in the highlights. Bradley Bourbonnais did quite the number on Lincoln Way West tonight. I don't know how much you caught of this and what you saw, but Lincoln Way West was one of those teams that I thought at least it's going to be a tight game. Not the case. Bradley Bourbonnais ready to go and rolling on the road.
Well, I did catch a few clips of this, and most of it was of the offense that Bradley was doing, and it kind of surprised me, to be completely honest with you. I thought Lincoln Way West defense would be a little bit sharper than they were tonight. Bradley seemed to do a lot of the things that they wanted to do offensively. They have a lot of weapons. I did expect that, them to kind of be able to maybe move the football, but I didn't expect them to have the success that they did and win by that margin. So that effectively, factors in a three-way tie at the top of the conference. Lincoln Way Central beat Bradley early in the year. Lincoln Way West beat Lincoln Way Central. So that, and then with Bradley's win tonight, that's a three-way tie at the top of that conference. All three of them going to the playoffs. The thing for Lincoln Way West obviously denies them the potential first undefeated regular season in school history with that loss. So, but all three of those teams are now, I believe Lincoln Way Central won tonight. So I think all three of those teams are sitting here at 7-1.
Lincoln Way West was 8-0 in 2015 when they played Lincoln Way North, both 8-0 going into that one, and Lincoln Way North won that game on a hook and ladder towards the end of the last couple of minutes of that one. That's as close as they've been. So this was their best season since then in terms of getting to a sparkling perfect 9-0. Remember, that team got to the state championship game in Class 5A before losing to Nazareth. I'm just watching Fenwick right now just weave through the Mount Carmel defense to get in the end zone. I'm not sure you saw this play. If you had it up, it's a fascinating touchdown with 8:14 to go. Fenwick right back in it now. Extra it's 28-20.
Now. Yeah,
you have a bit of a delay on me, but watching the replay here, this is incredible. He evades a sack here, still got rid of it. Oh my goodness, this is the play of the day across the state of Illinois. My God, that's a 25-yard touchdown. Wow. So this is one of those plays when you watch it back, you're going to go, how did they so he escapes a sack. Not just one guy, but two guys trying to sack him. And somehow, before he gets rid of the ball, nearly gets hit there, a flimsy wounded duck pass, and then having to weave his way through traffic to get into the end zone. That's remarkable. You're going to see that all over the interwebs as we go through the evening hours and through the weekend for sure. Mount Carmel now 28-21, 8:14 to go. So now we have to watch that game. We have to pay more attention to that, as we will. Mount Carmel, the big possession coming up. Other games we're watching here. Oak Park, River Forest, and Addison Trail is fascinating to me because I want to see if Addison Trail can get a win on the other side of the line, so to speak. They had a 23-13 lead and the ball, but somehow Oak Park had it in deep territory, got it in for a touchdown. It's 23-20 now. Addison Trail leading, 7:37 to go in that game. So keep an eye on that. It's 24-0 Maine South over Glenbrook South. That's about 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. What other games are you watching as I search for finals right now, sir?
Well, I just caught a final that was pretty interesting to me, and it was a game that I'm going to just raise my hand and say, sorry, guys, I was wrong. Bishop McNamara, 48-20 over Hope Academy tonight. So a dominating performance for the Fighting Irish in this one. My bad. I was off on that one. I'll take the hit on that one.
It happens.
Performance for Bishop McNamara here. I mean, that's really impressive. They finished the regular season with Elgin St. Edward next week. Looks like a very light 9-0 regular season for the Irish. First one since 1998. For the Fighting Irish.
Very, very, and you do the math on that, that's 27 years, so it's been a long time since they've been that good, and it just shows that when you dip down and figure it out, you're going to be impressive, and so Bishop Mac on their way to another 9-0 season for the first time in a long, long time. I'm going to start rolling through some finals as I keep one screen going with Mount Carmel and Fenwick, and looking up and down the scoreboard, so to speak, and let me know if any of these jump out. Just kind of bounce around the state. Bismarck Henning getting a win, BHRA 55-19 over Ridge Farm. Bloomington Central Catholic, no problem at Pontiac tonight, 48-21. Looking up and down Clifton Central, they had no problem with Iroquois West, the Fighting I-57s, a 44-8 victory tonight. Tri-Valley over Shelbyville, 50-6. Farmington shutting out Lewiston, 42-0. Hayworth over Tuscola tonight, 30-14 the final. Fieldcrest got a win tonight. How about that? I have a score that says Fieldcrest over Gibson City, Melvin Sibley tonight, a final of 34-6. That might be flipped. So we want to double check that just to make sure. That sounds like it would be double flipped.
Yeah.
All right. So sometimes we catch them live as we're reading them ourselves. Moments over Watsika tonight, 44-19. Monticello over Prairie Central, 18-14. Central A&M over Fisher. Nice to see them on the field, 42-6. Mount Zion, 25-12 over Taylorville. Normal Community, no problem over Champaign Centennial, 56-6. U-High down in Normal, no problem with Springfield Southeast, 50-14. Let's see if there's anything that surprises us. Westville, no problem with Hoopston at 59-0 there. This one caught my eye because it was tight for a while, and Peoria pulled away 42-14 over Bloomington. We're trying to figure out Bloomington, and they're trying to figure a lot of things out too at this point. Would you say?
Yeah, every week it seems like I'm dropping them a little bit farther. After early in the season, I was moving them up. Just saw a score that was pretty interesting to me come across the notes here. Thank you. Canelan with a 23-21 win over LaSalle Peru. LP touchdown 2-point conversion with 30 left. Canelan field goal with 1 second left to win it. That game, Canelan was down in that game all night long, and down pretty substantially. So they must have rallied late in that one. It was one that was real low scoring early on, but obviously a heck of a finish in that one. I was concerned.
Stop you. I want you to turn your head to Mount Carmel real quick. I want you to turn your head to that. And so I'll just to recap there. Canelan, they lost to Rochelle last week at home for their homecoming and had to turn things around. A pick six for Fenwick, a 30-yard untouched touchdown. And so now we have a brand new ball game. About 5 minutes to go. Extra point pending. I'm watching it for you here. It's a 6:05 to go. The extra point is up, and it is good. So we are tied at 28 down there, 56 and Dante. Mount Carmel and Fenwick in a barn burner in the fourth quarter. Let me go back to the story you were talking to because we'll get back to this. We have plenty of time for it. So LaSalle, Peru, and this was down in LaSalle, right? Is that correct? Was that a road trip? That is a heck of a bounce back for Canelan late because that's an easily you can see that season sliding the wrong way quickly after getting smoked at Morris, having to lose to Rochelle where you never had the ball basically. And you're dealing with also the magic of what Rochelle's been dealing with, to be honest with you. And at the same time, you see a 2-point conversion for the win, drop your hearts with 30 seconds to go. They come back down and get a field goal with 1 second left. Hats off to Coach Thorgerson and the Canelan Knights for getting a big mental win this evening. How about that?
Yeah, that was big. I mean, they're in the playoffs, but you don't want to finish,
backwards.
In a situation like that where it's going like that. They've got a Belleville-Altoff team in Week 9 that, based on what I saw tonight, is going to need to win that game to get into the playoffs because, as far as I know, they were getting beat by St. Mary's out of St. Louis by about 3 touchdowns earlier that I saw.
Yep.
I don't know if they rallied, but if they don't, they are going to be one of those 4-4 teams that needs to win in Week 9. So, if Canelan got into that situation, they're going to the playoffs, but now it's not a situation where you feel like you're backing into the playoffs. You can maybe go in with a little bit of momentum. Maybe you can knock that out off.
Breath a little bit too.
Process. Yeah.
I feel like their schedule has been kind of like all over the place. They beat Sycamore for the first time since 2017, but and then they had the slide these last few games. It's been kind of tricky. But for them to get a win and then Altoff having to make the bus ride up here as opposed to the other way around makes a big difference for sure. DMAC beat Ridgeview tonight, 28-19. What does that do for you?
That's very interesting. Ridgeview is one of those teams that, came into tonight without a loss. And we're seeing some of those fall all over the place to teams without, there were 3 that were going to lose tonight. We knew that. But now I've seen 3-4 more that have fallen off of that list too. We're already in the high 20s. With a week to go here. And that's not even knowing some other ones that were still out there. So I think I've seen already with the 3 that were playing undefeateds, I think I've seen 3 more fall as well. So that's 6 that I've already seen that are lost tonight from that list. And I'm sure there might be a couple more lurking out there that I haven't heard of yet.
One of them is not Vandalia, 49-0 over North Mac. I have no idea anything about Vandalia, but I know that they're 8-0, and so they're obviously someone to contend with. But that's you get down there, you're trying to figure it out from where we are. To be blunt, we're up north. We don't necessarily get out to see some of these teams, and so that's been kind of tricky to follow. But make note that they are 49-0. Actually, 49-0 win over North Mac at now at 8-0. Mount Carmel's ensuing drive, 2nd and 5. They're going to pick up the first down, crossing midfield and gone for a touchdown. No, not quite. A touchdown saving tackle at the 25-yard line here. 4.5 to go. Watch this play as I'm a little ahead of you here, but you can see where the corner comes out and gets it. That is a dangerous run that nearly went for the distance here.
You want to talk about a shoestring tackle? My goodness.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's why I was ready to call it a touchdown. I didn't see him coming in. Now the camera angle, if you know Mount Carmel, if you watch, you hardcores with us know that Mount Carmel is straight down. You're straight down from the press box, so it's hard to see the whole picture, the whole field, so to speak. So we're watching this one right now. We're going through some scores. We're getting finals to come in here. We have recaps coming. We've got a lot to do. If you're just joining us, Lincoln Way East lost tonight. Jonas Williams, dressed, did not play. We don't know why. We don't have the results or reasons for that right now. I'm sure we're going to learn as the days go on. Carmel absolutely lights up Loyola. We have a recap for you. We're going to play that for you in a couple of minutes. And we're watching Fenwick and Mount Carmel go down to the wire. They're under 4 minutes to go. We're going to take a timeout, watch the finish of that, get to everything else as we keep going here. Week 8, Friday Night Drive here on Shaw Local.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
At Oliver's, we are proud to serve our community. We serve up great customer service, quality products, ease of shopping, and we serve up delicious barbecued sandwiches at our fundraiser cookouts. So stop by Oliver's, 748 North Brenton and Dixon, and help fund our local clubs and events.
In Illinois and into Iowa, the story of Shaw Media is a story of trust. Since 1851, we've been informing, connecting, and reflecting the communities we serve, large and small, rural and urban, suburban, and river towns alike, with dozens of local newspapers, radio stations, magazines, and specialty brands like Friday Night Drive and Starve Rock Country. We meet people wherever they are. We shine a light on local government. We celebrate Friday night touchdowns. We tell the stories that shape your day, from neighborhood heroes to the Chicago Bears. But what truly sets us apart? It's our people. The award-winning journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers who live here, work here, and care deeply about what matters most to you. We don't just report the news. We're part of the fabric of the places we serve, from the Mississippi to the Illinois, from the Fox all the way to the chain of lakes. Trusted for generations, still earning it every day. Shaw Media, your most trusted local source.
Back here on the show as we are looking at Week 8. The scores are coming in, and we're watching games go down to the wire. I'm Matt Rodewald. He's Steve Soucie. We're watching Mount Carmel and Fenwick. The Caravan tied with the Friars. 28-28. They're under 3 minutes now to go at 56th and Dante, and Mount Carmel is trying to go ahead. They're inside the 10-yard line now, so we're watching that, keeping an eye on that for you. Meantime, some surprises. Some of the big news that we've seen is Lincoln Way East goes down to Naperville North, and the reason for that, Jonas Williams, star quarterback heading to USC, did not play tonight. He was dressed, did not see the field. We don't know the reasons why. I'm sure we're going to find out as the days go on, so we'll be watching that. In the meantime, Seuss, what are you watching other than Mount Carmel and Fenwick as we're watching this drive go inside the 10, now inside the 5, and towards the goal line they get in for a touchdown. I want you to watch this run. Again, if you're just joining us, Seuss has got a little bit of a delay here, so he gets to watch this run here and watch it in real time as I have a bit of a head start on this. Watch this effort to get to the goal line a couple times.
Yeah.
He does not quit. And so Mount Carmel takes the lead with 2:12 to go. It's 34-28, extra point pending. Joliet Catholic won tonight 49-0 over De La Salle. Brother Rice 48-6 over St. Lawrence. Bishop Mack over Hope Academy 48-20, and also St. Francis over DePaul College Prep 35-14. Some scores from the city. We also have the Loyola and Carmel game to discuss. Carmel all over the Ramblers tonight, and Loyola is in some big-time trouble to make the postseason. Russ Hodges was there, and he has the recap.
Hey everybody, Russ Hodges with Shaw Media, Friday Night Drive, recapping tonight's Chicago Catholic League game between Loyola and Carmel here at Loyola Academy. The final score tonight, Carmel coming away with a massive victory over the Ramblers, 42-14. The passing offense for the Corsairs was dynamic. Trey Taylor, the four-star junior quarterback Nebraska commit, was outstanding tonight. 384 passing yards, 4 touchdown passes. 4 wide receivers tonight for Carmel finished with at least 6 catches. Carmel put up well over 400 yards of offense tonight. The Corsairs moving up to 6-2, 1-1 in the white division, clinching an automatic playoff bid, getting back to the playoffs. As for Loyola, Matthew Lee, 129 passing yards, 1 touchdown, did have 2 interceptions tonight. Eli Jackson had one of them, and Jameer Miles as well for the Carmel side. Don Maloney took over at quarterback in the second half, but Loyola was not able to find that spark. Jordan McKinley did have 6 catches for 79 yards and a touchdown. Melo Maldonado ran for 97 yards on 15 carries with a touchdown, but the Loyola defense was unable to get stops tonight. Carmel was moving the ball extremely well throughout the game tonight. So again, the final score, Carmel 42, Loyola 14. The Ramblers dropped to 4-3, 1-1 in the Blue Division. Loyola is going to need a win next week against Mount Carmel to be in a better position for the playoffs. Carmel gets to 6-2, 1-1 in the White Division, and locks up the playoff spot. I'll have the full article posted in a few hours at Friday Night Drive. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Russell J. Hodges for future Chicago Catholic League football updates.
Appreciate Russ for all his hard work. Carmel with 400 yards of offense. Soucie, Trey Taylor, and the Corsairs scream nightmare matchup in the postseason.
Well, when you're looking at Carmel after this win, it's kind of been an interesting study of them all year long. They have been one of these teams that has been bouncing back and forth between 6 and 7A. And now as they continue to pick up wins, not only is it interesting to see which class they're going to be in, we're starting to talk about a pretty darn high seed for the Carmel Corsairs as well. So now you're looking at, before they were looking at being an undercard seed in one of those divisions. Now they're looking at the upper half of that bracket after wins like this. So Carmel, there's a whole bunch of possible. If I had to make a list of possible playoff opponents for Carmel, that list would be about this long. I mean, because they could be in 6, they could be in 7. Like, the one thing I do know for a fact is if they're in 6, they'll be in the North bracket. That's the only thing that I know for sure. Anything beyond that, I can't tell you.
Yeah, with that kind of offense and a Burlington Central defense, I do not want to see that matchup if I'm a Burlington Central fan. I will tell you that for sure. That's the fun part about 6A is you're used to seeing teams come up, like the good teams will they leak into 6A from 5A? This year, it's coming back the other way. It's like, is Wheaton Warrenville South going to find its way to you? Is St. Charles North going to find its way to you? So if you're a 6A, you have no idea, and there's not enough amount of tape to watch to try and figure this whole thing out. Watching that Oak Park game and Addison Trail, I don't know how, but Addison Trail continues to have the ball inside their own red zone, inside their own 20, and they haven't relinquished the lead. It's still 23-20. It's 2:14 to go. They've got a 4th down coming up, 4th and 2, and there's a timeout, which tells me I think they might go for it on their own 22-yard line to try and get the first down and end the game. And if they don't do it, well, we'll see what happens with that. Meanwhile, Mount Carmel and Fenwick, they are closing in on the end of this one here. Mount Carmel with a 35-28 lead. They had a 2-touchdown lead, but Fenwick scored on a ridiculous touchdown, then got a pick 6 to tie things up. Mount Carmel went back down, scored 35-28, and that's where we stand here with about a minute 45 to go as we're looking at amazing drone shots of 56th and Dante. Boy, they got every camera down there too, doesn't it? Everyone they want. They got them all.
Yep, exactly.
3rd down and 3, and Fenwick did not get the first down unless it was a fumble. I believe they just turned the ball over. So watch for this sequence, and it's going to be very difficult to see from the camera angle you have above. Watch it if you can. There's a fumble on a 3rd down, and Mount Carmel has the ball, and it looks like they will be able to put this away. And it's tough to watch. It's because of the angle. We still in a timeout, by the way, over at at Oak Park with Addison Trail with the ball, 2:14 to go. Glenbrook South and Maine South, that's been all Hawks. It's 24-0. Glenbrook South has not moved the football at all, and Maine South looks like they're going to go in again. They're in the opening minute of the 4th quarter. It's 10:08. They're going to be playing forever as they continue on now, and so they. It looks like let's see if we can stay here and keep an eye. A fade route for the end zone. It's short, almost intercepted. Nearly caught. Was that caught? Oh my goodness. I just happened to flip over to that. It was deflected twice and off a guy's shoe, and it was caught in the back of the end zone for a touchdown.
Oh, geez.
Watch this play if you can. Do you have it still?
No.
1 deflection, 2, and it lands in his back pocket as he's standing there with 1 foot on the ground near the end line, and the officials got it right. I looked at it too and went, yeah, that's a touchdown. It's a bad night for Glenbrook South. I'm sorry. I love the team. It's just not going well.
I just saw the replay. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh wow.
Man, that's I hope the folks down in Bloomington, the IHSA, Mr. Troha specifically, whoever puts that top 5 together, we've seen 2 of them live tonight.
Yes, absolutely.
Please just watch the show back for a timestamp and go see it yourself. It's ridiculous. Any other finals that are crossing right now that catch your attention here? I'm all over the board. I noticed Morris all over Sycamore, 50-10. I don't know what that does for Sycamore. Did I see that that York just beat Glenbard West tonight? Is that the score we have? Do we have it? Let's see if we can get a final for that. I'm going to surf. I'm going to do some interweb surfing here and see if we can get a final on that. Trying to get some of these tonight has been a little tricky, I would say, for sure. Let's see. Yep, I have a final that says 21-20, a crucial extra point block for York to seal the win. So they had. Glenbard West tried to go in for the tie, and I'm watching the replay. Yep, with 3.5 to go. So, and then they held the ball and finished it. So it was about 3.5 to go. Glenbard West was trying to kick the extra point to tie it. So the York Dukes, we have not talked about them at all throughout the course of the season. For a team that went to the state championship game, they've been kind of flying underneath the radar, and they got a big win tonight. How about that for York?
Yeah, I mean, I thought coming into this week when you just kind of looked at the schedule that we had the 8-0s. This a lot of teams out there with with undefeated records were playing teams with 6 wins, and I just felt like this week had the potential to be pretty crazy, and this has far exceeded my expectation in regards to that, in regards to some of these games and some of the results that we're getting. It's definitely been a wild one, to put it mildly.
It looks like back to Addison Trail and Oak Park River Forest. They went for it on 4th down at their own 22, 4th and 1, and they got it. It was a long one too, but they got it, and now they're kneeling it down. Genuflect time. Addison Trail is going to win again. Are they going to go to 7-1? Is that their mark at this point?
Yeah.
Again,
yes, it is.
This is not to say that we believe, or I believe, that Addison Trail is a contender, but they're just intriguing to me because they keep beating the people on their schedule, and they're going to have a high seed, and someone's going to have to face them. I don't know how this is going to go.
Yeah, I mean, they finish next week with Willowbrook, which I think could maybe be a competitive game, but even so, I mean, I think the odds are reasonably good. They could finish 8-1, and they're going to be in a pretty good situation. But the one thing about them, and what you're talking about, you don't know how good they are. They have one of the lowest point totals in the state of Illinois right now.
So we're going to find out where they go. Yeah,
the schedule is not strong at all in that respect. So I mean, right now they have on my board, I have them with 22 playoff points, and I think I can only think of one team that I know for sure has less than that. So that's statewide. So that's a very, very thin schedule.
Richmond Burton beat Marengo 42-13 tonight. I thought we would see more from Marengo tonight. That was not the case, as the Rockets did some damage. From one RB to the other, Riverside Brookfield beating West Chicago tonight. WeGo goes down 31-14, the final there. Which is more impressive, 8-0 RB or 8-0 RB?
I think Riverside Brookfield, to be honest, based on expectation.
Yes.
Based on expectation. I think that if you had told me before the season that both those teams were going to be 8-0, Richmond Burton wouldn't have really thrown me all that much. Riverside Brookfield would have.
Let's check in with Josh Welge, because he was at the Crosstown, and he may say it, I don't know, but I can't remember an Oswego East game since the split of the two schools in that district that has been more interesting in terms of both teams being really, really good in a long, long time. And you looked at pictures of Ken Pickerel Stadium, it looked jam-packed like a playoff game tonight. Like you could not get anywhere to stand, sit, or what have you. But I want to hear Josh's recap, so here he is from Oswego.
Josh Welge from Friday Night Drive, where the final score at Oswego High School in the 21st Oswego Crosstown game, Oswego 33, Oswego East 21, 33-21. The story of the game, Oswego sophomore running back Amir Benar. The night before his 16th birthday, the first time his mother got to see him play in a high school football game, 20 carries, 126 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's kind of been part of a carousel of running backs, a rotation of running backs, kind of worked himself into it, and tonight was really his breakout night, again, with 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oswego actually trailed 21-13 in the third quarter. They scored the last 20 points of the game. Benar with his first touchdown to draw within 2, and then a 94-yard touchdown pass from Drew Kleinhans to Martin.
And it cuts off there, but it was a fascinating game. You make sure you read Josh's recap in Shaw Local and the I believe the Kendall County Record for you tomorrow. Thoughts on on this one here, because we've been trying to sort out the Southwest Prairie for as long as we can remember. Yorkville, Oswego, both getting wins tonight.
Yeah, the whole conference has been kind of chaotic. Talked a little bit about it over the last weekend. This one, I had no idea what was going to happen here heading into this game. I really didn't. I wasn't sure what has been going on with Oswego's offense over the last couple of weeks. It really seems like they corrected some things tonight.
Yeah.
And Oswego East has been up and down and up and down, and it's been kind of hard to read them as well. So I didn't really know what would happen, but this is a nice bounce back for Oswego to get themselves, back into kind of, maybe not in front of the conference, but in a good situation. And by the way, that Mount Carmel Fenwick game did go final with 35 points. Yep.
35-28, the final score. A couple more finals. Nazareth, easy win over Bennett tonight, 42-14. Batavia over St. Charles East. Although the score is interesting, 31-13. St. Charles East has figured a few things out, I think, as opposed to being an 0-9 doormat. So that's a good sign if you're a Saints fan. And Batavia just kind of quietly moving along and doing, kind of plodding along, which is good for them. I think it's good for them to kind of hide under the radar, as what we've seen in the Duquesne Conference. This score caught my eye. It will catch yours too. Fenton loses tonight to Ridgewood. Ridgewood was 1-6 coming in, having lost 6 straight. 35-27 the final there. Fenton was 3-4. That's a bracket mess up for sure. So trying to figure out who takes that spot is going to be interesting throughout the week. Hersey 38, Prospect 34. That's a final tonight. Palatine 23-13 in their crosstown game. I should say Fremd over Palatine 23-13. Do we know for sure whether Johnny O'Brien played tonight? Do we have any updates on that situation? I don't believe we do.
I don't know for sure either. No.
So we'll see if we can figure that out. Joe T brings this up with Morris, because I just mentioned this a couple of seconds ago. Morris had 50 points, a 50-10 win over Sycamore, but they ran less than 30 plays on offense to get 50 points. That would be what they call efficient. That's how that works.
I'm going to need further explanation on that one at some point.
That's when you read the news story and figure that out. I don't know if Eddie and his beautiful beard was down there tonight or if he was at LaSalle, Peru. I will tell you, Rochelle stomped all over Ottawa tonight. 42-3 was the score I had on that one. So Rochelle... And also Dylan Manning, the update with him is he's continuing to make progress. He obviously, if you know the story from a couple of weeks ago, he collapsed after a game as a junior running back for Rochelle. Collapsed after the Morris game 2 weeks ago. He's been hospitalized ever since. Emergency surgery literally the day after. They had other procedures since then. It's going to take some time for him to heal. And so our thoughts are with him. And watching the Rochelle community last week, you couldn't help but root for them. And they did get a win over Canelan, and they held the ball for 35 minutes in a tight nail-biter win. But I will tell you, a 42-3 win probably just allowed them to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
They just needed to take a deep breath in that community for the last 13 days. So good for them. They deserve it more than anything else. Barrington all over Schaumburg tonight in a shutout win. Don't have the score in front of me just yet, but I'm seeing the headline, so that's a good news. If you're a Barrington fan, the Broncos keep on rolling. And other scores that you're seeing, let's see. Oregon over Winnebago, 20-18. We talked about RB. The Seneca score, we had the recap from that. How about this one? Lena Winslow put 60 on Eastland tonight, 60-32 on the road, no doubt.
Yeah,
our buddies at Mendota,
that's not a bad EPC team either. I mean, that's not
a team. Yeah, the Cats with a Z, by the way, because they're awesome that way. You're not cool unless you have a Z in it. Mendota did not win. Nope, they didn't win. 27-14. Erie beats them tonight. Peoria Notre Dame 47-13 over St. Bede. This was one that was interesting in the Nick 10 tonight. Belvedere North survives at Hononegah 27-24 the final. So Belvedere North stays undefeated, I believe, at 8-0.
Yes, that's correct. They came back late in that one because I was looking at it earlier and I thought they were in trouble. They were one of those teams, those 7-0 teams that I thought were in trouble based on what I had seen early on.
Zion Benton loses to Stevenson, but Zion Benton puts 21 points on the board in a 40-21 loss. Are the ZBs going to be able to get some wins next year? That's really hard to kind of turn the corner from year to year in that part of the state. Grant over Grays Lake Central, 54-20. We saw Warren in a tight one a little bit at Lake Zurich. Warren, 27-17 winner. North Chicago got a win tonight. 55-7 over Round Lake. North Chicago had lost 5 in a row, so good for them for getting a big win tonight. What other scores are you seeing that are crossing your wire, so to speak?
I think you had mentioned some of this a little bit earlier. I don't know if you had mentioned the final. Aurora Christian did end up closing out Wheaton Academy 28-27. That has kind of a little bit of a ripple effect. That's Wheaton Academy's 5th loss.
Yes.
So Wheaton Academy is not going back to the playoffs this year. So they had lost two. They went 0-2 in their non-conference schedule, and now have lost too many games in league play. So I felt like they had to get one of the games from the big three: Bishop McNamara, Hope Academy, or Aurora Christian, and they didn't get any of them. So they seem to be on their way to a 4-5 mark, and not enough playoff points to be in that discussion.
I beat up Chicago Christian a little bit early in the season. They got a win tonight over Christ the King, 20-12. So Chicago Christian, very, very different team, not the state championship team that we saw last year. They went far down the rabbit hole the other way, but good for them for getting a win. I'm not sure if this was their first win, but their third win. They kind of dropped off the radar for sure, but nice to see they've won 2 of their last 3. So for Chicago Christian, getting that win is a big deal for them. Looking at some scores, let's see. Glenbrook's Maine South now tacked on another touchdown. It's 38-0 on Glenbrook South. There's still 8 minutes to go in that one. That's just dragging into the evening hours. So, do we have an East St. Louis update tonight? Do we have that? Do we mention that at all?
I saw it was 31-0, and that was a long time ago. So
31-0. Okay, so we'll see if we can get that final. Trying to see if we have a recap ready. We do. And so you mentioned Aurora Christian. Let's go right there because Joel Bennett's was there in a good one with Wheaton Academy at Aurora Christian Schools. Let's check in on Aurora Christian and the Eagles' 1-point win over Wheaton Academy.
Joel Bennett with Friday Night Drive. I'm out here at Aurora Christian High School where the Eagles just walked away with a 28-27 victory and a thriller over Wheaton Academy. And my goodness, what a game it was. The Eagles went up 28-21 with 1:39 remaining on a 16-yard passing touchdown from Ace Johnson to Jalen Calloway. Ace Johnson finished the game with 234 passing yards and 113 rushing yards. But it did not take long for the Warriors to respond. I believe 30 seconds later, Colton Miller found wide receiver Tommy Summer for a 53-yard passing touchdown to make it 28-27. The Warriors went for the win. They went for the 2-point conversion, but on Miller's pass, it was Dominic Klimka, who had 106 receiving yards on the day on offense and a touchdown, who knocked down the pass and secured the win for the Eagles. My goodness, what a game it was. Eagles go 6-2 move to 6-2 on the season, and then 4-2 in Chicagoland Christian play. Warriors fall to 3-5 and 3-3.
All right, so again, Wheaton Academy out 3-5, and they will not make the postseason. And this is always wait a minute, what if they have playoff points? And you're saying no?
No, they don't have enough. That's just the situation that it's in. There's not enough points coming out of that league that on a regular basis, their non-conference games aren't going to give them enough. They are not in that discussion. So
we have a final with Lions beating Downers Grove North tonight, 24-20. The final, 24-20. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, once again, that conference is producing the results that we have kind of come to expect. You look at that, there's that 5-team grouping at the top where it feels like on any given night you can toss them around in the hat and see who you're going to pull out, who's going to win the games this week. So you saw Glenbard West losing earlier. That now everyone's back in that same situation where it's kind of jumbled together. So you're looking at that, and so in general, that conference is just displaying its depth on a week-to-week basis. And that, I mean, I'm not going to say I expected Downers Grove North to lose that game, especially after how well they played last week. But I'm not sitting here shocked by it either. So,
yep. I just got a text from a buddy of mine. What a weird night, and that's it really is. It sums it up because we've seen scores, but with this conference in particular, I expected to see it sooner. In terms of I didn't expect Glenbard West to go, unscathed this deep into the season just because of how tough the league is. So a loss tonight doesn't necessarily surprise me, but maybe that it took so long for them to pick up a loss. And then Downers Grove North, we've been hyping them up so much, we kind of forgot about Lions. We also haven't really talked about York, and we've talked a lot about Hinsdale Central over the course of this season as well. So it's interesting as you watch that league and see where it goes and how deep they get in the postseason in both 8A and 7A. I'll be very, very fascinated to see. We have a highlight. We talked about this before. Let's set this up because we talked about Canelan quite a bit and LaSalle, Peru, in a fabulous game down there in LaSalle, in that beautiful stadium that I am dying to go see a game at. But I'll tell you what, so Canelan gave up the go-ahead drive to LaSalle, Peru with 30 seconds to go, and so Canelan had to answer, come back down, and attempt a game-winning field goal for the win. The Knights come through. Here's the highlight. Observations first. That was a high snap, and that was really, really well done by whomever the holder is for the Canelan Knights. I love holder highlights. Good job. That was not an easy field goal from 32 in the right hash for sure. It's been a little breezy tonight across the state too. Not windy, but just a tad bit breezy. And in that stadium, I don't know if you've been there, but my understanding is it swirls in there because it's in a bowl.
Right. Yeah, no, that's correct. I mean, it is definitely, it's a unique environment. I would say that for it.
So Canelan gets a win. They, after last week dropping down, where do you see them in terms of we talked about what they got with Althoff. They don't have to slip into a 4-4 versus 4-4. Just a quick recap of what we discussed earlier in terms of where they go.
Yeah, I mean, basically now they're sitting in a situation where they don't necessarily have to have that win against Althoff to kind of keep themselves out of the bottom of the bracket. I still think they're probably going to end up, somewhere in the 9 to 12 range, depending on what happens with Althoff next week. But before it was like, okay, if they lose this game, when they were struggling early in the game, I'm like, and then if they lose to Althoff, then you're looking at the bottom of the bracket, and that's something you don't want to be that way in any classification.
Looking at some of the highlights and some of the scores, I should say, Revis goes down to Shepherd tonight. What does that do for you? The final of that was 20-19.
Okay, so there's been some very strange stuff that's been happening in that conference tonight. That's just one of them. This is the one that I've really just got off that I was surprised about. Oak Forest entered tonight with a 7-0 record. All right, Hillcrest has 4 losses already. So you want to talk about understanding the assignment at hand?
Don't tell me.
Hillcrest won the game 34-8.
Oh, so God.
Hillcrest stepped up into it and said, we got to win. Let's go do it. Took care of it. And that was one of the 7-0 teams tonight that I was talking about that lost tonight when on paper it didn't look like they were going to lose. So that's the kind of thing, that's the theme of week 8, apparently. So, yeah, so that's what we're looking at right now. A couple of interesting other scores in that conference. Oak Lawn with a 37-36 win over Eisenhower. That was another one where you were kind of looking at it early on. It looked like Eisenhower was going to be, in the situation where they had to be, playing that way. So basically that conference has turned into a complete jumble where it has a bunch of teams that have the potential to make the playoffs, But in week 9, they all have games that matter to them in terms of what's going on with that. So we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll come back and we'll try to break down the rest of the things for the last half an hour.
SGKR Injury Attorneys tackles the toughest cases. I'm Matt Rundio. When life throws a flag, we go on offense to protect your rights. Don't get sidelined. Score a touchdown with SGKR. Visit us at sgkr.law.
At Oliver's, we are proud to serve our community. We serve up great customer service, quality products, ease of shopping, and we serve up delicious barbecued sandwiches at our fundraiser cookouts. So stop by Oliver's, 748 North Brinton and Dixon, and help fund our local clubs and events.
In Illinois and into Iowa, the story of Shaw Media is a story of trust. Since 1851, we've been informing, connecting, and reflecting the communities we serve, large and small, rural and urban, suburban, and river towns alike. With dozens of local newspapers, radio stations, magazines, and specialty brands like Friday Night Drive and Starve Rock Country, we meet people wherever they are. We shine a light on local government. We celebrate Friday night touchdowns. We tell the stories that shape your day, from neighborhood heroes to the Chicago Bears. But what truly sets us apart? It's our people. The award-winning journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers who live here, work here, and care deeply about what matters most to you. We don't just report the news. We're part of the fabric of the places we serve, from the Mississippi to the Illinois, from the Fox all the way to the chain of lakes. Trusted for generations, still earning it every day. Shaw Media, your most trusted local source.
Welcome back to Live with Friday Night Drive. Just checking in right now, trying to get a recap of what's been going on so far. This evening, obviously, one of the breaking stories of the evening, Lincoln Way East falling tonight to Naperville North, 14-6 loss. Lincoln Way East without standout quarterback Jonas Williams, who was in uniform but did not play. So obviously that affected Lincoln Way East offense considerably. But it has been a wild night overall. We've had a lot of interesting games. Top-ranked Mount Carmel had to fight to get past the Fenwick team tonight. Also another prominent undefeated team, Glenbard West, losing by a point to York in what is proving to be a very wild West Suburban Silver Conference race this season. Lots of interesting contests so far in that race. But when you're looking overall tonight, many of the favorites were won expectantly. There's still one game in the top 10 still going on. A very late start with Maine South, but they are comfortably defeating Glenbrook South, a top 20 team, very easily. So basically Maine South has really rebounded nicely from their opening week loss to Lincoln Way East, where they looked kind of overwhelmed, and had the opportunity to and has really been playing really good football. There's about 2 minutes left in that one. It is 38-7 in favor of Maine South.
Sue's going to give you just a second here. Hi, everybody. John Solly, a managing editor here at Shaw Media, and often in the background here at Live with Friday Night Drive. We've got some technical difficulties on Matt Rodewald's end, so we are looking forward to having him return to the show. But we've got a question here from Brian Stone here, Suze. What does that Lincoln Way East loss do? That was obviously completely unexpected tonight, and I'm sure we'll get more information as we go on. But what does that loss do for Lincoln Way East?
You know, I think it does a couple of things, at least from a team perspective. It kind of shows how reliant that team is on him being there. I know that there was a little bit of an ankle injury that he was dealing with a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if that was what it was tonight. I'm completely speculating on that point. I'm not sure exactly what it was. I talked to a few people before the show came on that I thought would know, and no one seems to know what the status of him and why he was out tonight, or how long he may be out for. Lincoln Way East ends the regular season with Sandburg in Week 9, a weird Thursday night matinee. So I think we'll get answers sooner than later with their quick turnaround. But yeah, it's a big deal. He's he's obviously a huge part in what happened there. I watched almost the entire second half on the feed. and it showed immediately. I immediately was able to indicate what the problem was. Like without even, I mean, the feed was way away. I'm like, wait a minute, that's not Jonas. So then I went looking around and I discovered that he was not playing. So I think defensively, Lincoln Way East is very good, but I mean, I think they need that concert with him guiding that offense and doing what he does. So from a technical standpoint, it's not going to hurt them that much. I mean, from a seed-wise, because they have good playoff points, and like we've said before, there's just not a lot of undefeated teams left. Mount Carmel appears to be the only team that's going to be undefeated in the 8A draw as long as they win next week against Loyola. If they don't, then we'll have no undefeated teams, and then we'll have a point situation to sort out. But I think seed-wise, this isn't going to hurt Lincoln Way East that badly.
All right, well, Matt's back on. We'll,
you know what? And thanks, John, for jumping on here. You know what, Soucie? You know what happens occasionally? Your phone just automatically gets put into airplane mode. That's what happens.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so it's like I'm doing this on my phone. Hi, phone. There you go. So, like, that's how this thing works. I'm in front of a computer, obviously, with two monitors, thinking, in case that fails, I'll just hop on here. Nope, not happening. So apparently Internet Fortress wins tonight. So apologies for the delay on that. I know last where you and I were talking was the South Suburban and Oak Forest's bungling of the Bengals tonight. I don't know if you were able to figure out, because I was in the midst of that chaos that I just had personally, that I'm back on the Oaklawn bandwagon tonight. We're getting back on the ride here. We're saddling up the horse, and we've got a win over Eisenhower tonight. And the Spartans are going to be arriving into Burbank next week. Let's go.
Well, yeah, and that just kind of speaks to the chaos of this conference. We had the big crossover game tonight, and Lamont in that league as well, and that was not a game either. I thought that would be a competitive football game. It was not. I mean, Richards ran away and hid in that game, and snapped Lamont's 5-game winning streak. So, so that whole conference, I'm kind of looking at the results and kind of throwing my hands up in the sky and going, I really don't know what's going to happen here.
So just give up, right? That's enough for all of us. Just pack it up, everyone. Go home. So, and I think about to lose the internet again. Are you kidding me? This is going to die in me. So
Okay, so it looks like we've lost Matt again here. So, yeah, we could have just left him up there frozen in time like he was.
We could have. That would have been a mean joke to play on Matt, to have that frozen face, and now it's just in our background in the studio. Steve, I want to bring up a question here that we got from a viewer here. Can any Nick 10 teams get in at 4-5 and possibly specifically the Freeport Pretzels?
Well, see, the biggest problem that any Nick 10 team has is that they're the conference that they play in, because they are limited in the number of playoff points that they can get, because every time that they win, they get 4 playoff points a week. Every time that they lose, they get 5. So a 4-5 team is going to max out at 41 points. That's going to be nowhere near what it's going to take to get into the playoff field at 4-5. I genuinely believe right now, if we need 4-5 teams, you're going to need a minimum of 47 points to be in that discussion. That's a minimum. I think it could go higher than that. So basically, when you're talking about anybody in a lot conference, you already know, if you know their record, you know their playoff points. It's not a situation where you have to tabulate non-conference wins or anything like that. A 9-0 team is going to finish with 36, 8-1, 37, 7-2, 38. 6. That's just the way the math works when you're in a lot conference with a controlled schedule. So anybody in a lot conference is not a viable option as a 4-5 team.
All right. Just looking, macro at the big picture tonight. What's 1 or 2 games that you think affected the bracket the most tonight?
I think there are a couple. When you look at teams that are taking bids, that's the one thing that I kind of look at right now. Like we were talking about Hillcrest earlier. That's a team that stole a bid tonight, because I was assuming a loss to Oak Forest. That would have been their 5th. That would have knocked them out. Now they have a Week 9 game that they can win, and they can finish 5-4. So now they're back in the discussion. And then you have to counter that with who are the teams that lost tonight that I was not expecting to lose, expecting to get the 5 wins with a win tonight. An example of that, Geneva. Geneva's lost to Wheaton North, drops them to 3-5 on the season. They don't have the non-conference wins that they need, even if they get a win next week, to go to 4-5. So now they're off the board. So Hillcrest basically stole Geneva's spot in a small overview type of thing. And I'm sure there were a couple more of those that happened tonight. But the key is how many on the one side, how many upstarts do we have knocking their way into the field, and how many do we have knocking out? Did we have a different number there? Was it the same? That's what I'm always looking at when I evaluate Friday nights, because if it's the same, then we're not going to have any movement in how many 4 or 5 teams that we need. If the more teams failed to get in, then that number is going to start to go up. If more teams fought their way in, it's going to go down. So that's kind of the lever that I'm watching tonight in regards to where are the teams at that needed a win tonight to get to 5-4. Did they do it? Did they not do it? So those are the teams that I really have an eyeball on. I have a list of about 25 of those teams. Most of those teams took care of business and did what they were supposed to do, but there were a few that did not.
John, I'm about ready to take this thing and just throw it across the room. So I moved to the computer now, so you get to see more of this. Look, this is my office anyway. So Downers Grove South, no problem tonight, 42-10 over Leiden. Marist, no problem over Marmion, 51-6 out in Aurora tonight. Do those do anything for you, or just obvious confirmations of what you expected? And where are we with Marist? What do we got to do at this point? We got 1 hour to go, and I don't have their schedule off the top of my head.
Well, Marist needs to finish with a win in their final week of the season to finish at 4-5.
Right.
They are in excellent position points-wise. That is not going to be an issue. So they're in good shapes there. And they have Niles Notre Dame, a team that I believe that they should beat in Week 9. Right. So if they get to 4-5, they are very high on that list of teams that I'm expecting to, basically get themselves into a situation where they will be in the discussion if we need 4 and 5 teams. I think that they have consistently been one of those teams almost all season long when it looked like they were going to get to 4 and 5, and I believe that to still be the case.
Let me go to a couple of comments here, because we appreciate the comments and we want those. We want your comments. And next week is imperative that we get your comments, because we got to get these scores in as quick as possible so Soucie can go to bed. That's the most important thing next week. So let's start with Brian Stone. He was talking about losing streaks real quick. And I want to ask this question. We mentioned this a little bit. Some of the 6-game losing streaks. I noted that Ridgewood had lost 6 in a row, but we haven't had any outstanding, multi-season losing streaks that get snapped that you know of off the top of your head. Do you? I don't think we saw any of those tonight.
No, I saw a score that was reversed earlier that was making me want to go study, but the score turned out to be wrong. I believe that Elmwood Park might have been on their way to a victory, but that score was reversed. And
okay. All right. And then the Gibson City score was backwards, is what Levi is telling us. Yes. So we appreciate that. It was, I believe they had Fieldcrest tonight, and Fieldcrest, we noted their losing streak that was snapped maybe a week or 2 ago, but we didn't think they were ready to do that, and so we were questioning that one for sure. So, and then last one, I want you to show this one from Joe T. He was asking about the Sterling and Quincy score, 38-17 over Quincy. And this is the essence of the chat that's going on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, this is what we want to see. Is you guys finding scores for us, because we're watching games and there's only so much research we can do too. And we also want to play the recaps as well. Ooh, Pittsfield won. We want to find out what that losing streak was at. I don't know where they were in terms of losing streaks. So I will take a look at that just to dig that up. But aside from the Lincoln Way East storyline, Mount Carmel had a bit of a scare. Loyola went down in ugly fashion. We had 3 and 4 teams that were expected to win and did not, and disappeared off the playoff radar. What are some of the other stories we haven't really gotten to that kind of jumped off your page in terms of maybe emptying the notebook as from a journalist's standpoint?
Tonight, a lot of things, kind of went the way that I thought they would, but there would be some isolated games tonight that I looked at and I was like, hey, this is something to keep an eye on. One game that I was keeping an eye on tonight, and I was watching it because it was the marquee feed tonight, was St. Rita is somebody that we haven't talked a lot about.
We really haven't, no.
And they won comfortably tonight against St. Patrick. They are now in what I think is a situation that I did not really expect them to be in. They are playing IC Catholic next week.
Ooh.
And they have a 4-4 record right now. So they kind of need that win.
Yeah.
They have great points. So, I mean, that if they did lose it, I think they're going to be okay if we need 4 and 5s. But I'm sure they don't want to lose it. But I would not have thought that this would have been the situation that we were entering with St. Rita being 4 and 4 at this point in time, essentially needing to win against IC Catholic.
So Pittsfield beat Auburn tonight, just to clear this up, 34-21. Both teams entered at 0-7.
Okay.
Going into that one. Pittsfield, by the way, they won their last 3 games to end the season last year. And they had lost 4 going in a row. They've been, you want to talk about streakiness? Lose 4 in a row, then win 3 in a row, then lose 7 in a row. They're going to roll off another 5 now at this point. They've got Porta, by the way, to wrap things up. Porta 5-3. They need that one really from a seeding standpoint more than anything else. So that is coming up next week for Pittsfield. That gets to go home. The Saucies get to go home and see if they can get a win. Auburn, in the meantime, they're 0-8, and they were 2-7 last year. They've got Olympia next week. That was senior night for Auburn. That's awful. 0-7 against 0-7, and you lose senior night. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but it is. You'll laugh when the kids that are playing now at 18. They will definitely be laughing at 38 to go. Remember when we did that? We were so. It was such a long season. Any scores that you're looking for that you don't have that are intriguing to you as we look down the road as you're trying to put brackets together and stuff and things?
Yeah, I'm getting quite a bit of feedback on the ones that I'm looking for right now. So
okay, good.
That's the one that I have not seen from farther south. Was a battle of 7-0s, Richland County and KC Westfield.
Yeah,
that is
that one I was looking for too. I know it's final because I saw that.
That one I have not seen. I was watching the footage a little bit earlier, but I realized that I couldn't tell which team was which team because we had alternate uniforms and there was no scoreboard.
Oh my goodness, I saw that, and there were some terrible uniforms.
Yeah.
Richland County, a winner, 28-27 over KC Westfield. I don't know. Somebody was wearing pink uniforms that were that had like white numbers on them, and but it was like a faded pink into white. And I think it's because it's October, it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's my guess for it.
Yeah,
but I hate to say this, guys. That's against NFHS regulations.
Yep.
It's supposed to be opposite color to the shirt. I'm looking at you now, Notre Dame. You like to do that too, where you're like white shirts, white numbers. Let's see if the broadcasters can have a good time with it. Nope.
Yeah.
So, but they had fun with that, and honestly, it's an awesome reason to wear them, no doubt about it. I'm not discouraging that, but like put the pink numbers on there. Do that. Talk to you got a guy at BSN Sports, I'm sure, make him do that the right way. So, so we have a Richland 28-27 barn burner. Don't know how that finished. I am going to try and see if I can look that up. But that one is big because those were the 2 7-0s. There weren't very many of them, but that was something that caught your eye. You were curious about that.
Yeah. It was one of those games. I mean, there were just 3 of those tonight, and they were all kind of interesting to me. I saw that Mark Krutzinger chimed in with the Bishop McNamara's 48-20 winner. Yep. Tell Carter I'm sorry, Mark. That I issued my former apology earlier, but tell Carter I'm sorry. Carter is on the Bishop McNamara football team. I'm not sure what Mark's relation is to Carter, but I'm just assuming that they are related.
There's always a parent. Usually it's an uncle that's a little more aggressive, right? And that uncle always wears shorts too. Doesn't matter the way. He's the line coach. Doesn't matter. Williamsville over Maroa tonight. I see 39-20. That's the final I had.
Yeah, that was another one that I had not seen that I was very interested in what that was. So
what say you with the reaction to that score?
I maybe put up a little bit of the alarm flag with the loss to Olympia for Maroa Forsyth. So that was basically, I was wondering how this one was going to go. Maroa has kind of owned that series for a little while. But I'm not necessarily shocked that Williamsville came out of that with a win. The margin throws me a little bit. Yeah. I thought it might be a little bit of a closer game than that.
It was a scoreless fourth quarter, by the way, between those two. So that was fascinating, too, to see that. Saw another one. Glenwood survived SHG tonight, 35-31. Glenwood Titans are 8-0 on the year. How about that?
Yeah, that was a dogfight. That was one that was going kind of back and forth. I think SHG was leading at halftime, and I kind of lost track of that one in the chaos of everything else. But yeah, that's a good football team, and I think the big drama with Glenwood is where are they going to be? Is it going to be 5? Is it going to be 6? That's because they are literally right on that fence. They're one of those teams that's bouncing back and forth.
I don't have anything else in terms of scores that shock me. You and I were kind of waxing poetic of a potential playoff run for Hampshire, which ended tonight as Cary Grove beat them 40-7. But Cary Grove is a team we have not talked about at all. They lost their first 2 games, and those first 2 games, Prairie Ridge and the Central Rockets of Burlington, to drop to 0-2, and they just decided, all right, we're going to hide over here and then do our thing for the next, couple of weeks or so. They might be the scariest 6-2 team you don't know about.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's definitely one of those things where you're just kind of, when I'm looking at it and I'm putting them in the mock every week, I'm like, really? Like this is where they're at. I'm just not used to them being seated that low.
Right.
And, seeing them in a potential 8-9 game, it just throws me a little bit. I'm not used to that. So, I see somebody asking about Montini and St. Ignatius. Montini won that game comfortably. So yeah. Montini looks to be on its way to a potential 9-0 season.
Just very impressive.
In that schedule, that is extremely impressive. The Chicago Catholic League looks like it's only going to produce 2 undefeated teams, Mount Carmel and Montini.
And it's the kind of unbeaten season that if anyone comes close in November, it's going to be notable. And if anyone beats them, it's going to be one of those things we'll remember for years in the postseason because of how good that team is with that schedule and who they get the rest of the way. We did mention Morris earlier, 50-10 over Sycamore. Sycamore kind of sliding the other way. Morris 50 points. We did hear from someone that said that did it in less than 30 plays. So let's find out if Brian Hoxie knows how that works.
Hi, folks. Brian Hoxie here. Shaw Media, Friday Night Drive. Tonight I was in Morris as they were hosting Sycamore. And Morris clinched the I-8 Conference Championship and stayed undefeated on the season at 8-0 with a 50-10 win over the Spartans. Morris led 20-3 at the end of first quarter and 35-3 at halftime. Logan Conroy of Morris had 3 interceptions in the first half alone and also caught a receiving touchdown in the first half. Quarterback Brady Varner threw 3 touchdown passes. The other 2, besides the one to Conroy, were to R.J. Kennedy and Anthony Smith. Caden Curran, who missed last week against Ottawa, played tonight. He had 9 carries for 55 yards and a pair of touchdowns. And for Sycamore, running back Kevin Lee had 15 carries for 87 yards. So again, tonight in Morris defeats Sycamore 50-10. Morris now 8-0, and Sycamore falls to 4-4.
We talked a lot about Montini. Can Morris hang with them?
I think it's interesting. I'm not going to dismiss it as a possibility. I think that's a really good Morris football team. And it's, Montini brings some things to the table that, even though Morris, I think, has played a pretty good schedule, that I don't know if they've experienced that much of. Izzy Abrams is a heck of a quarterback. I don't know if they've seen somebody that is that electric at the quarterback position. They've seen some explosive athletes, obviously beating Peoria early in the year. But that's not the same thing. And it's a Montini defense that is really, really good and is probably going to make some of the easy sledding that Morris has had this season against some opponents. That's not going to happen here. Morris is going to finish the season next week with a trip with a Michigan team coming to them that last year was a really good team. Yeah. It's not nearly as strong. So I do think they're going to go into the postseason likely, either as the 1 or the 2 seed in the 4A North draw. I haven't sorted out whether or not Montini or Morris is going to have more points. It's a very close battle. So that's, and that's partly due to Morris's non-conference schedule. They have played a good non-conference schedule, so they're going to get some credit for that.
No one's played more variety in terms of their schedule.
Wilmington, Peoria. Those are going to add up. Those are going to rack up some points for them.
Brian adds for us, by the way, 28 points off 4 Sycamore turnovers. That certainly is a huge factor. And then there it is, 26 offensive plays to get 50 points. Good. We got our official answer. We appreciate that for sure. When I'm looking at just some of the other scores, and I'm just amused by this. Mundelein put 63 on Waukegan tonight.
Oh, geez.
63-14. Good Lord. So we had North Chicago with 55 and Mundelein with 63. It has been a weird night. I see Catholic over St. Viator. I assume you had that one, 49-9. Here's my score of the day. You ready for this? I'm looking at this. I have to hear how this happened. Elk Grove, 10. Buffalo Grove, 4.
What?
That's 2 safeties, kids. 10-4. I don't know. Somebody was there. Somebody had to have a recap of that.
Yeah, I can. That's the same score I'm seeing. I just looked it up because I was like, I hadn't seen that one. My goodness. That's wild.
So here's what we've seen tonight. We've seen a 10-4 score. And then in the Oswego game, as we mentioned in the opening of the show, we had at the end of the half, field goal, kickoff fumbled, field goal. In 3 straight plays, 2 straight offensive plays for a field goal. This is weird stuff happening. We always get the weird week.
Yeah.
And we thought last week was kind of okay. Well, you want to play with us, okay? But this week is off the rails. The best quarterback in the state not playing. Do we know why? Nope, not sure. Oh, and not to make light of this, we had a game suspended because we had shots fired in the area. And so Prairie Ridge and Dundee Crown are going to have to finish up tomorrow at 11 a.m. So that is just some of the funkiness that we've seen around the state. High school football, you never know what you're going to get each and every Friday night. And we've seen some fun finishes too tonight. We saw 2 amazing highlights. One in a game that was out of hand, a Maine-South touchdown that I'll never forget. Dink, dink. Oh, here, I found it. And then the Mount Carmel, the Fenwick run, or the Fenwick pitch and catch. Fenwick quarterback escaped like 17 guys in order to avoid a sack. Just an impressive night. What is your story of the night if you have to go back and look at it? I would imagine Jonas Williams is right up there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's my headline for this evening, trying to get some answers on exactly how serious whatever the issue was. Is it going to change? Is it lengthy? I mean, are we talking about something that's going to keep him out, for an extended period of time? So we don't know. That's one of those things that that we don't really have an answer for right now. So that to me, that's a potential big shaping situation. And then you kind of look at some of those things that happened in the Catholic League tonight. Obviously, Loyola losing in the fashion that they did as well to Carmel is a significant standpoint, and then trying to figure out whether or not we're going to maybe not have Loyola in the playoffs. I looked it up this afternoon because I was curious about it. Someone had asked me. That would be the first time since 2002 if that materializes that they haven't been in the playoff field.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, so that would be. I mean, that's what we're talking about in that situation. So, I mean, it's not done. I mean, even if they were to lose next week, it's still going to require. It's going to still require the computer to spit out all the information and factoring through the week 9 situation. So yeah, that's definitely one of those situations. And then you start really digging into it deep. There were some games that were out there tonight that were pretty big surprises and are going to change. Last week we didn't have a lot of movement and who got in and who got knocked out. I've already seen 5 or 6 tonight that have made me say, okay, that's either a straight swap or a field move or stuff like that. So you have to figure those things out as they come in, and that usually involves like I get a lot of the Chicago land-based scores put into my system, and then the other ones are the ones that I'm digging out. That's just the easiest way for me to do it. So I'm sure there's some other nuggets out there that I don't even know about yet, because there always are.
Loyola, Geneva, DePaul Prep, Chicago Christian. What do they all have in common?
State finalists last year that are almost likely not going to the playoffs.
Amazing.
And you also didn't have
runner-up or champions. They played in normal, and they didn't make it the next year. We're not there yet, but we're really
Catholic too.
Joliet Catholic also on that doorstep.
Yeah.
That's incredible. What does that say to you?
Althoff is another that may not make it.
We could have a remarkable show next week. We really are. I guarantee you we will. Yeah. Also, one more score. I don't know who won. It was Winnebago and Oregon, and it was 18-5. Why not? Let's throw that on there.
Jeez.
18-5?
Yeah.
I saw a giveaway safety in St. Charles North and Glenbard North as Riverboat Rob Pomazic was running the old cover play. Make sure they got out of there with an 11-point win. By the way, also Bolingbrook over Minooka, 39-20. So that kind of completes the weirdness that we saw in the Southwest Prairie tonight. Why not?
Levi just dropped a bid stealer in there too. Jacksonville over Decatur MacArthur. Jacksonville is going to now move into the projection based on that win. MacArthur only had one loss coming in tonight, so that's a surprise. Jacksonville finishes the season with Lincoln. They're 4-4 now. They should be able to get to 5-4.
And then Brian Stone reminds us we had that Sandberg game that was a 5-3 final for early in the season. I forgot about it.
Someone ripped a bases clearing double in the gap.
And we had closer football games than the league championship series for sure. All right, it's 11 o'clock past my bedtime. You stay up and finish all this chaos and keep on going. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching tonight. Thanks for following along. Next week, when we do this show on Friday night, we are going to go until you have the brackets done, or at least the best we can do, just like we did last year. I'm staying with you. We got them done pretty quick. When do we get them done last year? That doesn't mean it's going to be the case this year, but
I want to say it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1:32 a.m. was when we had what I thought was going to be, without checking all the numbers, because that would be ridiculous to try to do on Friday night. But we had kind of a soft proof at about 1:30 in the morning last year.
Off the top of your head, next Saturday, is there a ton of intrigue in terms of?
No.
I think that's what I was asking, because it's
a very light Saturday, and the very few games of consequence, at least in regards of this team gets in the field or this team.
Okay.
There are going to be a few of those because there are actually some Week 9 games that have not been scheduled yet, and those are the ones where I don't know when they're going to be played. Sometimes they play those games on Thursday, so then they get wiped out right away, but sometimes they put them on Saturday afternoon, and those are actual literal toss-up games. Winner goes, loser goes home, and it's usually between two teams I don't know very much about. So those are the
Sullivan kids.
Those are the tricky ones. Those are the hardest ones to figure out, and so I'm always eagerly anticipating when they release those games. Please put them on Thursday. Please don't put them a Saturday at 1:00 in the afternoon. But I rarely get listened to on that complaint. But I'm hoping that's the case.
So the rules on Friday, 9:30 until we figure it out. Stay with us. If we don't have a score, we need it. So the biggest thing you can do is jump in on the chat starting at 9:30 and start flooding us with scores. Here's a good one. Vernon Hills over Maine West tonight. That's one of those. Last one also, Byron had 63 points in the first half tonight against Rockford Lutheran. I had it on the radio and they felt bad. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And wait, by the way, Byron, 11 for 11 on extra points. Perfect.
There you go.
Good job, kids. All right. I got to go. We're going to do this again next week. I will see you at 9:00 on Monday. We will recap the madness that is Week 8 here on Friday Night Drive here on Shaw Local. See you guys.
Cody McKinney from 15 yards.
Antino, Herod with it, tucks it, goes toward an opening, and fights his way into the end zone for a touchdown. Under 6 minutes to go, third quarter. Here is again Chenoweth breaks outside. Touchdown, Blue Devils!
That is up and good.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. Here is a pitch on the outside. There's a room. 10, 5. It's a touchdown. Blue Devils!
Hi guys, back to start going through these scores that we didn't get in tonight, and I've got quite a few of them in, so it should be a fairly, hopefully painless process tonight. Lots of interesting results to go through in terms of this was the night that I'm kind of anticipating we were going to get for a couple of weeks, and we didn't. But we always have one of these over the course of the season, and it looks like week 8 is probably going to be that one. So just kind of running through some Chicagoland scores that I got in late here, and then I'm going to switch gears and start filling some gaps. But I do have a lot of scores in. One that I know that I have not seen from Chicagoland tonight is Thornwood and Stagg. So I know that that's one that I'm looking for right now. So I'm going to start making my list. I'm going to start going through the conferences one by one here. You know that, Brian, you're asking is next week a win in an in situation for JCA? It's kind of a complicated answer. I mean, obviously, first the challenge is getting the win and getting to 4 and 5. The Hilltoppers do have a healthy amount of points. But, you know, it kind of all depends on what everyone else does in week 9, because that's going to be determining how many 4 and 5 teams we need, if any. If we need them, Joliet Catholic will be very, very high on that list of potential teams. Might even be in first position amongst those teams. But I think the big challenge right away is to get them to 4 and 5. So I'm looking at that right now because I'm just curious about it, so I can fill you in with a little bit more detail. So, yeah, so Joliet Catholic already has 45 points in the bank. That's a lot, provided that their schedule next week produces, you know, at least 5 points. And I'm looking at their schedule right now, and I think that's what they're going to do. That's going to get them to 50. Because I'm seeing 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins, 6 wins. They're likely going to finish with 51 points. which would put them in tremendous shape. So that answers that question. Thoughts on Bradley going 8-1? I can't remember who they have in Week 9 off the top of my head, but I think it's a team that I think it might be Andrew. That is no, it's Rich. No, that's not right. Yeah, it is Andrew. Up at Andrew. So yeah, I think they'll be in pretty good shape. I mean, I think that's gonna put them in an interesting position in the 6A bracket. That, you know, it kind of like the hinge might actually end up being where Glenwood ends up. If Glenwood's in the 6A bracket, they're likely going to be undefeated. They're probably going to be the top seed in the bracket. But if they're not, if they end up going to 5A, I think Bradley might end up getting as high as maybe a 2 or a 3 seed in that South bracket. And that's important because I think East St. Louis is probably going to end up on an 8-9. So you actually probably don't want to be the 1 seed in that bracket. And you probably don't want to be the 4 seed either, because you're probably going to run into those situations with East St. Louis earlier than you would want to. So big win for Bradley tonight. It puts them in good position. I think I'm guessing they will probably be a 3 in the projection next week. So that's that. So, all right. So I'm going to try to answer the questions as we go tonight, but I'm also going to try to move a little bit on the scores. So, yeah, so that's where we're at right now. So I'm going to start tonight with, I'm going to move conference to conference like we usually do, but I'm going to start with trying to fill in a couple of games that were. So the first one that I have had trouble finding tonight is Belleville, Althoff, and St. Mary's. So that is one that I need. Last I saw, St. Mary's was winning somewhat comfortably. So that is one that I need to get here. So then I'm going to check that one. And then I'm going to check another one that I was... St. Mary's 23-0. That was I think that was the last score I saw. So that jives with what I saw. So that drops Belleville Althoff to 4-4 and puts them in a must-win situation against Canelan next weekend. So that's one to watch for next week. So, all right. So then I got that one. 35-0. What happened there, Weather? That surprises me. North Boone over Stillman Valley tonight. 26-0. That I think that's going to get North Boone in, isn't it? That's their 5th win. Okay, Big Northern. Thank you. GK 62-6. Oregon 2018. GK 62-6. Okay. Okay, so what I'm seeing tonight, I mean, I know it's still early, but some of these scores that I'm seeing, if that Thornwood Stag score is correct, I think Thornwood might be on their way to the playoffs, and I think that's a very good football team. But I guess we'll find out. And that's the example of what I'm seeing tonight. I'm seeing more bid stealers than I'm seeing teams that knock themselves out with questionable losses. So right now, I think the 4 and 5 list is slowly starting to dwindle. It was at 8 this week. I'm going to estimate right now, my feel is that it's probably going to be at 5 or 6 coming out of week 8. So I'm starting on the Apollo scores right now, like usual. And I'm looking for a Mount Zion Taylorville score. So that's the one that I need there. So Effingham 36. It's not surprising that Thornwood won that game. Interesting score there, Levi. I'm just teasing. Thank you. 25-12 for Mount Zion tonight. That's a little closer than I thought it would be. Okay. So out of the Apollo now. On to the Big 12. Peoria 42-14 over Bloomington. Danville wins 41-22 over Peoria Richwoods. Peoria Notre Dame 47-13 over St. Bede. Okay, looking for Urbana and Peoria Manual. Okay, thank you, Weather. Thornwood wins that, so we have to recalculate them. Urbana 42-26. All right, on to Black Diamond. I'm going to throw the one public league score that I'm missing from tonight out there. Might as well start looking for it. Clemente and ITW Spear. The one Black Diamond score that I'm missing, Edwards County and White County. Okay, now I'm in the Cahokia, Illinois. Oh, Duplo Valley beats Sparta. Interesting. Chester beats Red Bud 42-18. So I'm done with those. All right, now to the Cahokia, Mississippi. Santa wins 55-0. If you've got questions, I'm now at the point now where I feel I can maybe answer some of them as we go. I'm getting in my groove now, so I can. If you have questions about things from tonight that you'd like me to try to answer. That's an interesting question, Levi. Wondering how many total yards of offense East Alton Wood River has with no points so far. They've not scored a single point all season. So that is an interesting question. Quincy's Sterling and Quincy over, move them over to 8-9. A little too early for me to talk on that, but I think that's a reasonable estimation there, Weather. I think 8-9 is a possibility now. Remembering what I had from last week and where I had Sterling based on them losing this game. So, all right. So I'm going to need a couple of scores out of the Central State 8 that I'm missing. I know somebody threw it up earlier, Jacksonville and MacArthur. I just didn't write it down at the time. I know Jacksonville won. I can't remember the score. I'm also looking for Normal U High and Springfield Southeast. Thank you, Jacksonville 36-33. I thought that's what it was, but I'm at the point of the night where I blur numbers. Oh, that Decatur Eisenhower got a win tonight. That hasn't happened very often. Over Lanphier. Okay. So right now the two scores that I'm missing are White County and Edwards County and Clemente and ITW Spear. I think Plainfield East won 24-7, Keandre. I know they won. I'm not sure of the exact score, but I'm pretty certain that they won. I think it was 24-7. That still puts them in tiebreaker control for the conference championship. They are now tied with Plainfield South and Joliet West at the top of the conference, and they hold the tiebreaker over those three teams. All right, I'm looking for Marion Central Catholic and Elgin St. Edward. Yep. Yeah, that's the situation, Keandre. The only way that you can win the conference right now would be if Plainfield East loses next week, and you win because you have tiebreaker over Plainfield South. So, Marion Central Catholic 44-8. Thank you. All right. So now I'm going to move over to Chicagoland Prairie. Those were all non-cons, but this is the yeah, I can't either, but no Jonas Williams makes a big difference. So okay, so the Ottawa Marquette Knoxville game is tomorrow. That's why I can't find it. All right. So got to change that. Playoff chances? Are you asking about Joliet West, Keandre, or are you asking about Lincoln Way East? The key for you guys, since you have 5 losses right now, is that you have to get the automatic bid for the conference champion. So what it comes down to is if it's a 3-way tie with you, Plainfield East, and Plainfield South, Plainfield East wins that tiebreaker because they gave up the least amount of points in the games against you and Plainfield South. If it's just you and Plainfield South, then you would win because you beat them head to head. So that, and then if obviously if Plainfield South loses and Plainfield East loses, you also would win the conference championship with a win. So that's the scenario. If Plainfield East, Plainfield South, and Joliet West all win next week, Plainfield East is the conference champion, and that's the situation there. But yeah, there's your breakdown. So good luck next week. Okay. All right, so then I had that game will not be final because of the delay that they had. Now move into the heart of Central Illinois. Starting with the large side. Okay, I'm looking for El Paso Gridley and Clinton. $4-0. Okay. Okay, now I'm getting to the famous Fieldcrest Gibson Mill Sibley. Thanks, Paul. Is that a good Piatone Mantino game? I only saw the score. Was it close at the end? All right, 34-6 Gibson City. I know Matt mentioned it on air, but I didn't write it down. I need a Deer Creek Mackinac Ridgeview score. Yep, that is correct. Piatone officially eliminated from the playoff field with that loss to Mantino. That was their 5th loss. And they don't have enough playoff points to really be a legitimate threat for an at-large berth at 4-5 if we need them. And I'm also looking for Central A&M and Fisher. Forced this tomorrow, so that was wrong. And then 42-6. All right. And 28-19. Okay. So I have that box guy. So now I'm going to the Illini Prairie. It looks like it right now, Paul. 4 teams from the Illinois Central 8. Wilmington, Coal City, Herscher, Mantino. That looks like that's all the league is going to get this year. It looked like for a while we might get more than that, but it is ironed out that way. Paxton, 46-0 over Tool. I need several from the Illini Prairie at this point. Actually, it's only 2. Pontiac and Bloomington Central Catholic. Tolono Unity and IVC. All right, so now I'm going to go to the tricky ones because we're going to the independent league. And these are always the weird ones. Okay, I need Madison and St. Louis Gateway and Granite City and something called Donovan. They are also out of Missouri. These are the tricky ones, I know. Down to 67 scores that we need for the evening. Really good pace. So it's for the Grove, 35-19. Cumberland, 15-14 over Nokomis. Okay, on the Lincoln Prairie. So right now I'm down to 4 scores missing. Clemente, ITW Spear, Edwards County, White County, Madison, St. Louis Gateway, Granite City, and Donovan, Missouri. Okay, so I'm missing quite a few in this conference. This is one that I always seem to chase. Illini West wins 42-22. Hudson wins 48-12. Valley loses. Okay, I need a Farmington Lewistown score. Farmington wins 42-0. I need a Macomb Elmwood Brimfield score. Yeah, the Middle Illini has been wild all year long. That has been a tough conference to figure. At least every week there seems to be one game that I'm like, really? Too early to tell. Naz are north and south. They've been south the last 2 weeks, but I think there's going to be some changes in those brackets just based on what happened tonight. So it just kind of depends on who goes in and who goes out on whether or not Nazareth moves back north. Okay, I need a Havana, South Fulton score, Abingdon, and Rushville score. Okay. Rushville 46-14. Nothing. Okay. All right, so going to move on to the Mississippi Valley. Pound for pound, Brian, I'll take the Catholic League. But if you go division by division, I think it's the blue on a year-to-year basis, even though this year, I mean, maybe St. Ignatius is down a little bit down. You talk about a league that is, you know, outside of the conglomerate that is the Catholic League. I think this year that would probably be the West Suburban Silver. I think they have the largest depth of quality football teams. It's Jersey 27. Highland 6 feet at 13-10. Keeps their playoff hopes intact. Okay. I'd put the Duquesne pretty high up on that list. Okay, I'm on the Northwest Upstate Illini now. East Dakota. 6-6. Stockton really had to work tonight, huh? 18-14 over Dupec. I need a Lena Winslow score. I heard it earlier. I didn't write it down. Lena Winslow in Eastland Pearl City. $60-32. Okay. As we move on to the Sangamo of refresher on what I'm looking for. White County and Edwards County, ITW Spear, Clemente, Granite City Doniphan, and Havana and South Fulton. Okay, Pittsfield, 34-21 over Auburn. Yikes. Light up the scoreboard, boys. I think whether right now, I am going to say, based on everything that I've seen so far this evening, that list is going to dwindle to 5 in this week's projections. 4 or 5 is going to be my guess right now. But we all know week 9 gets nuts, so it's going to be interesting to see where it starts towards where it ends. Yeah, the Wheaton-Warrenville South has just been taking care of business the last couple weeks. I like the way they're playing as well. Olympia wins 54-13. Okay. I'm going to say 48 right now is what it's going to take. And that might involve a tiebreaker. Okay, Benton over Campbell, 56-7. Nashville loses to Corning, 18-28. Okay, I need a West Frankfort and a Jonesboro score. $61.22. Thank you. All right, so now moving into the Southern Illinois River, Ohio. Carterville wins 28-7. Murfreesboro. Harrisburg 14-7 over here. Do you have a Massic score from tonight, Levi, against Saxony Lutheran? I was just about to ask for that as you put that down. Saxony 42-28. Okay, yeah, you're right. That's a big one. That's an opening up bid game. So I've been looking to see if there were a couple more of those tonight, and that's one of them. That's a team that lost tonight that I didn't expect to. So that's what I call a bid stealer right there. So that opens up the door for another 4 and 5 team potentially. Got a couple of teams go the other way and add themselves to the field. Got a couple of teams fall out as well. So it might end up just being a wash, but I still think there are a couple more teams that have fought their way in tonight that have knocked themselves out. I still haven't been able to total up those numbers, but I think it's +2 right now. I usually have a list of those, but I don't tonight. So I need a Vandalia North MAC score. Thank you. Okay. So now, I think we've probably got about 40 scores to look up yet. 36, missing 36 scores. So we'll move on to the South 7 now. Lean over Carbondale, 39-35. Centralia rallied to get Mount Vernon. Okay. On to the Southwestern. Okay, I need a Belleville East, Belleville West score. East 27-14. Three Rivers, Mississippi. Thank you, Paul. On that Donovan score for me. Okay, so looks like I need a bunch of scores in the Three Rivers tonight. Let's start with Sherrard and Ryan. Princeton, Mercer County. Donovan 21-13, Levi. And Mendota and Erie Prophetstown. Boy, Rockridge really put it to Monmouth tonight, didn't they? Thought Rockridge would win, but not by that much. Princeton 41-22. Mercer County 22-41. Erie Prophetstown 27-14. 14-27. Got Sherrard hanging around there anywhere, Levi? $48-12. Okay. All right. So the two scores I'm currently missing from the earlier conferences, Edwards County and White County, ITW Spear and Clemente. So, okay, now I think I need, let me check one place first before I ask for it. I need a West Aurora, East Aurora score. Central 44 to 8. West Aurora 46 to 7. Bismarck 55-19. Westville 59-0. Okay. Starting to work it down here. Western Big Six is next. Moline wins 35-0. I had that one earlier. Sterling 38-17 over Quincy. Rock Island 41-6 over Galesburg. Okay. Western Illinois Valley. Okay, looks like I need a ton of these scores. In fact, we need 4 of them. North Green Brown County, Mendon Unity, Winchester West Central, Greenfield, and Triopia, Camp Point Central, and Pleasant Hill. I need all 4 of those. Greenfield 36-12. Camp Point 60-8. West Central 58-50. That's another one that's interesting. I think West Central played their way in and Mendon Unity played their way out with that loss. Brown County won 63-0. Okay. All right. Those are all done. Okay, need a bunch of scores out of the Northern Illinois. Belvedere North, Hononegah. Auburn and Belvedere. And Boylan and Harlan. Got a rough year for Boylan. Guilford Rockford East is tomorrow, Levi. Okay. All right, now I got to get through about 15 other games here that slipped through the cracks for various reasons. Let's start with a couple of public league scores. That's interesting. I can't seem to find Solorio and Military Bronzeville, but I also can't seem to find a record for it. Okay. So, I'm looking for one out of the Public West as well. Looking for Pritzker and Noble Row Clark as well. So right now, the list of I need are White County, Edwards County, Clemente, ITW Spear, Solorio, Military Brownsville, Pritzker, Noble Row Clark. I think the Solorio game may have been a forfeit, but I can't get that confirmed anywhere. It's not showing up in a couple places where it should show up. Also looking for Pekin and Limestone. Okay, Solorio 16-8. I'll take it. Okay, looking for a Hoffman Estates Conant score. States 28-14. Okay. Anybody got a Pekin Bartonville Limestone score from tonight? and Berwyn, Cicero, Morton, Hinsdale South. Hinsdale South 35. Okay. So right now I'm missing 4 games: White County, Edwards County, ITW, Spear, Clemente, Noble Pittsburgh, Noble Road Clark, and Pekin and Bartonville Limestone. There's a 5th game, but that was the suspended one, so I probably should just mark that Saturday anyway. Sure. 42-0 Pekin. Okay. All right. So everything's in that I can possibly get in from tonight, except for those 3 games now. So let's start messing around with the numbers a little bit before we call it a night. Okay. So right now we have 25 teams that are still undefeated, and we have 3 more playing tomorrow. All are favorites. So I think we will get through 8 weeks with 28 undefeated teams. Less than I thought there would be, to be completely honest with you. The interesting thing about that group is, of the ones that are undefeated, only 2 have enrollments of over 1,500. They are Riverside Brookfield and Chicago Mount Carmel. There are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those schools that potentially could be in 2A or below. Edwards County won 19-0. Thank you. Glenbard West did lose. They lost by 1 point to York. So yeah, so by enrollment, it looks like the 1 and 2A fields are going to be filled with undefeated teams, and then everybody else is going to have next to none. I mean, I'm kind of eyeballing it here. 3A might have 4, 5. So yeah, it's really clustered in these small groups below that. 4A will have 4, 5A, 2, maybe 3, 6A, 0 or 1. Yeah. 7A is, I don't think, going to have any. In fact, they can't have any. So that's pretty interesting. The 1-loss team will be on the 1 line in Class 7A. That's an interesting little fact there. So, yeah, so that's different. All right, there are currently 81 teams with 7 wins or more statewide. There are 5 more teams tomorrow that can join that group. And as far as teams that already have at least 5 wins, that currently sits at 217 teams. And there are a lot of teams tomorrow that can join them. 1, 2. So we have 9 of those that can join the 5-win group. So as far as 5-win teams go, teams that have already reached 5 wins, we currently stand at 217. That list could grow to 226. So very large swath of 4-4 teams. That's an interesting number. I'm just kind of looking at it, eyeballing it right now. Looks like we'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 280 teams that will be 4-4. I don't think that I'm going to go into bracket projections tonight because there's too many variables from Saturday that would make it difficult. We can look at a couple classes and see what tonight did to them if you'd like. I'm sure I know what your recommendation is going to be for that process. So we'll just start with 4A. So all right, so looking at 4A, the teams that I have projected to go 9-0 all won tonight. So that, I think, is going to hold. Richland County actually won, and I had them projected to lose. They won by a point, so they're going to go up the ladder. Okay. City won, Manila won, Rainbow lost, Columbia won, Sacred Heart lost, NC won, Rodewald won, Centralia barely won, Sullivan won. See, okay. So 4A, as long as this field holds, see, you've got, I saw your list before. You have Longwood in, and I think that's where mine is going to be broken for the time being, because I think you're right about that. I think that's a change that's going to happen. So just kind of looking at the field in general right now, I think the stack is going to be that. Let's move up. All right, so yeah, so we're going to go. I don't currently have Macomb in the North bracket. That's because I'm still trying to sort out that public league situation. So we don't have the same 16 teams in the North bracket from what I saw that you predicted before. I've got Noble UIC in. I'm probably going to remove them and replace them with Longwood, or I might end up having both of those teams in. So that's going to change the stack of teams that you had. But I'm looking at what you have right now. It's pretty similar to what I'm going to have minus those public league schools. I also have Rochelle a little bit higher than you do, I think. Yeah, so you're generally on the same page with me. I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, Metamora lost tonight, so they're going to move down. So, yeah, so your North bracket looks kind of similar to mine in the most part, especially the top 5 are the top. Let's see. Yeah, the top 7 we're in complete alignment on, I think. Maybe the top 8. So, yeah, so that's pretty close. Let's take a look at 3A. There's going to be some changes there, I know, in that bracket just because of the things that happened tonight. Let's do this like that. I'll do that first. I'll do this second. I'll do that Okay, so let's look at that. I'm going to move there, and there. I'll move ACC down because they forfeited tonight. That was right. 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 I think they get swapped out for North Boone, who would go in their place. So North Boone goes in there. So looking at the 4A North bracket, or 3A North bracket, I'm sorry, Burton on top, Byron in second, Bishop McNamara third, Bloomington Central Catholic fourth, Noble Rauner fifth, Hope Academy sixth, Johnsburg seventh, Oregon eighth, Monmouth ninth, Aurora Central Catholic 10th, Durand 11, IC Catholic 12, Princeton 13, Herscher 14, Mantino 15, and Poplar Grove North Boone 16. The general pairings for that, I think the ones that the people here are most interested in are the 3-14 matchup, Herscher at Bishop McNamara. That would be the projection that I would go on right now if I had to guess. IC Catholic's opening round opponent would be Noble Rauner. Byron would be paired with Mantino, Richmond Burton with Poplar Grove North Boone, Bloomington Central Catholic with Princeton. Yeah, the Hillcrest edition is something that I haven't been able to factor in yet. I have to look at them. Is their enrollment that low? Would they be a 4A team? Is that right? Yeah, it is. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. Wow, that's something else. I am not used to thinking of Hillcrest as a 4A team, but that enrollment is a 4A enrollment. My goodness, I'd had them out for so long because I thought they were going to lose the Oak Forest game that I had not noticed that. Their enrollment dropped enough. They're a 4A team. That is an interesting catch, Levi. I'm not sure about that yet, Brian. I think it's possible. I will admit that. I think there's a very distinct possibility Wilmington might find itself in 3A. But I haven't done that breakdown yet, and I will wait until tomorrow to do it. So, yep. So, all right, guys. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Like I said, I got to do some factoring on some Saturday results before I can do concrete stuff. Next week, I promise, we'll have charts, we'll have data graphs, we'll do everything, and we will stay up late into the night as long as you guys want to stay here and talk about it and work on it. I will be projecting out brackets and republishing brackets late until next Friday night. That is my plan. In the interim, check out all the stuff on Friday Night Drive. New projection comes out on Wednesday. We'll be talking about this stuff all week long on podcast and every other information. Thanks for hanging out tonight, everybody. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week.